So I am cooking Passover meals and they are going to be quite easy, not fussy. I'm going to have to use quinoa as my main source of protein just because I can't have other sources of protein at the moment for like a week and a half. It's not forever, it's not a big deal, but I am a little bit restricted. So I thought tofu was going to be in because a lot of people do allow tofu, but it's probably best not to if you want to do Passover properly, whatever that means. Everyone does it their own way, depends on where you are in the world as well. Don't take my words to be shaming if you do incorporate it in any way, because that's totally up to you. But I'm going to try to not do it and just stick with the quinoa as my protein source, and then loads and loads of veggies. And yeah, I'll show you guys what I am coming up with. I did just make a cookie recipe, and there's really not much to it. It's mashed bananas and almond flour, super easy. Coconut shavings, 350, I threw them in the oven. I'm just experimenting to see if it'll work without any leavening agent. Will they work? I don't know. We're gonna find out. And you guys are gonna follow along with me. Okay, I'm just gonna smush everything together and then see if I need a little bit more banana. I'll just do another half of a banana, but I think this is gonna be good. Just gotta get it to the consistency that I like and mush it all together. These gloves are so big. When you have little hands, it's the struggle. Okay, just having some matzah crackers with some apricot jam. And I'm just gonna have that as a snack. I'll probably have maybe one more, and that's gonna be my snack. This morning, I was able to have beets and a nice kale salad. I also had sweet potatoes, which was delicious, and mushrooms, and now I'm having this. And then for dinner, I'm going to make a lasagna. Another thing that I'm having a lot is just plain potatoes made in the pressure cooker with my tomatoes and usually cilantro or parsley. And I put some seasoning on it, some seeds. Really delicious, really simple and easy, and very fuss-free. So to make this really easy veggie matzah lasagna, I used a large green pepper. I would say it's pretty large. I used 2 cans of my organic sliced mushrooms, and then I used 5 really large potatoes that were already baked in the pressure cooker, and I just had them in the fridge because I keep extra potatoes in the fridge, and I used those up as well for the lasagna. you're also going to need between 1/3 of a cup and 1/2 a cup of raw cashews. So I used 1/2 a cup, but normally I just do it with 1/3 of a cup. I just had a little bit extra in the bag, so I decided to just use it. Either way, you just want to soak it in boiling water, and I do it for about 30 minutes in the boiling water, and they're going to get nice and soft, and that way you can make your creamy cheese sauce. So I just start by cutting up my bell peppers into little pieces. This is how I like it. If you prefer, to just julienne it and have like strips of pepper in your lasagna, then go for it. You just cut it up the way you like. So if you have really small bell peppers, I would say maybe cut up 2 of them, but I had a pretty good size one, so I thought that that was enough. And then, yeah, each of the layers is going to have 1/2 of the bell pepper, and I found that that was perfect. And if you don't have green pepper, just use whatever peppers you have, red, yellow, it doesn't really matter. You just want to add another veggie, but I like the green peppers. The other thing that you're going to need, of course, is your potatoes. So I sliced up 5 pretty good sized potatoes. I would say they were on the larger side. And that is pretty much it. I left the skins on. I like it because it's a lot of fiber and it's really nutritious. But if you wanted to, you can always make your potatoes without the skin. But this is how I prefer to cut them and eat them. So they are just in medallions and not super, super thin. Like I wouldn't make them in any thinner than what I'm showing you guys because they will fall apart in your lasagna, but I found that this was perfect. So the other thing is you're going to need a jar of tomato sauce. This is just organic tomato sauce with basil, very simple, really easy. When I can, I try to find oil-free all the time. Sometimes it's impossible, but I do try my best. And if I can't find oil-free, I just try to, work with what I got basically and not feel bad about it, but next time hope that I can find an oil-free version. So of course you're gonna need your matzah crackers. These are unleavened flatbreads that are part of Jewish cuisine for Passover or whoever is celebrating Passover. So yeah, you're gonna need a box of those, and then I move on to making my sauce first as the oven is preheating. I've already chopped my veggies. And I just throw in my cashews that I have, just emptied the water. I've given them a little rinse. They are nice and soft. I throw them into the blender. I add the seasonings. I add 1/2 a cup of water, and then I, kind of see if I need more or not. And I do a hot water just because that's what I find blends everything really creamy and nice. I add a load of, like either garlic cloves if I have it, or I just throw in garlic powder. And I had garlic powder available to me, so that's what I used. I used a lot. I used about 2 tablespoons, so that is a lot, but you don't have to use as much as me. And then I put in some salt and pepper. Very simple, very easy. If you want to add more seasonings, you can go ahead, but my cheese tasted perfect. So like I said, I'm going to have the whole recipe in the description box, but basically you want to layer some tomato sauce on the bottom of your dish, and then you're going to go ahead and add in your matzah crackers on the bottom. So for me, mine was wide enough that I could just layer the 2 perfectly. It was really nice. They just overlapped slightly. And then I do have another one that is a little more narrow, so I didn't want to use that one. So really just use whatever you have, and if you have to break the crackers, then go ahead and do that. It's not a huge deal. So you're going to go ahead and add more tomato sauce on top. You're going to add in your potatoes. You're just going to layer those potatoes on. Then you are going to sprinkle 1/2 of your bell peppers. And then you can add some of that garlic cheese sauce, which is really delicious, adds another depth of flavor to your lasagna, and it's going to just give it more pizzazz. I really enjoy it. And I mean, you don't have to put it in. So if you're completely nut free, you don't have to put it in, but I do suggest you trying to make some sort of a sauce, or you can get like a vegan cheese if you eat that, because it just adds, a little more creaminess to your lasagna. Okay, so now a second layer is going to go on. So you're going to need more matzah sheets. I just put them right on top like I did before. And then you can assemble some more of the potatoes and the rest of your bell peppers, more sauce, and then more of the garlic creamy cheese. So yeah, like my cracker broke. It is not a big deal. Honestly, you're not going to notice. It's not a big deal. And yes, they are quite thin, but this is all you need. You don't need to double up your crackers or anything. They are not going to get super soggy. They're also not going to be super crunchy. I don't know how to describe it, but it turns out to be the perfect consistency. I really like it. Honestly, eating this just was not like me suffering at all. I know that some people talk about Passover meals like, ugh, they're not the best meals, but I was super happy with this lasagna, and I will make it many more times. And, these crackers worked out perfectly. This is going to be a staple meal for us for Passover, definitely. So I do like to add a little bit of my sea salt or Himalayan salt on top of one of the layers. I also add some more black pepper just to add some extra seasoning. But it's not, something that you need to do. I just like to do it because I do like a lot of flavor and a lot of seasonings in my food. Also, my blood pressure has been really tanking and really, really low, so I need to make sure that I'm adding salt. I'm one of those people that no matter what, because I'm whole foods plant-based, I need to add salt or my blood pressure is in the low 90s. So yeah, I add that extra salt because I can do it. If you can't because you have high blood pressure or you just need to be more modest with your sodium intake, then you do not have to do that. And yeah, that is it. Add more of the garlicky sauce because again, it's going to add such an oomph to it and creaminess. And the last layer, I also add the tomato sauce, and that's going to finish it up. The rest of the garlic sauce is going to go on the top to finish up the top as well. And then I also give it a sprinkling of salt on top. Again, optional, you don't have to, but that's how I do it. And that's it. Super easy, really simple. There is no, like fussing around with this. You can also, call this a no waste meal because I'm reusing those potatoes in another way and in another meal without, wasting them. I'm also using that ugly pepper that he was starting to look not so hot, and I'm able to use him in here, and he's going to taste delicious. And yeah, I mean, you can use up whatever veggies you have. If you have to use up things in the crisper, this is a great recipe to do that because you can throw in anything. So I used the organic sliced canned mushrooms out of convenience because I find that I can do so many dishes with them and it's just so fast and easy. I don't have to, chop up a million mushrooms, but if I didn't have it, I would just use chopped mushrooms and that's it. I don't know what the consistency would be because I do it with the ones that are already sliced that are canned, but you can always try, honestly, try any veggies. It will still work. It's going to be a delicious lasagna. And, it baked for quite a while, but it's worth the wait, honestly. So you could probably bake it for less time if you cover it with foil, or if your baking dish has a cover, you could probably get away with less cooking time, but that's not the case for me. So I try not to use foil. I only use it when I absolutely need to. And anyway, I don't even have any in the house. So I decided that I was just going to throw it in just as is, just like that. And I don't have a lid, or my cookie sheet does not sit well on the lasagna, so I can't even use that as a cover. So I just baked it just like this in the middle rack in the oven, and it was fine. The only thing that burnt was the edges on one side, slightly burnt, but everything else was perfect. So it took 55 minutes in my stove, in my oven, but it may cook in 50 minutes for you. It may cook in 60 minutes. It really depends on how strong your oven is. And again, it depends if you have a lid. So if you do have a lid to your baking dish, I suggest you covering it for at least half the time and then uncover it to bake for the rest of the time. And then you just check on it. If it looks nice and golden brown and you pierce it with a fork and it's not like super hard anymore for the crackers, then you're good. It's a perfect lasagna. So yeah, that is it. Here's my easy and very, very simple Passover matzah lasagna loaded with veggies, loaded with nutrition. I like adding the cashews because it's going to give a little bit more oomph to the meal because I'm not adding any quinoa for my protein source in my lasagna. At least it gives me a little more fat and a little more substance to my meal. I felt really good adding it in. And that is it. Super easy, really simple, and it stores wonderfully in the fridge for a few days in a nice airtight container, and you are good to go for leftovers. So this is how it turned out. It was super delicious. As you can see, it's nice and browned. If you don't like yours super brown like me, then take it out a little sooner, but it was perfect. And then I just allowed it to rest for a few minutes, and then I went ahead and sliced it. It was so easy to slice up. Honestly, I sliced it up in like a second. There was no fussing around with lasagna noodles. These crackers just cut up beautifully. Again, the texture was perfect for my opinion anyway, but you know what? Try out the recipe and see if you like it because I think it worked out perfectly. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, it's a great leftover meal as well.